Hey up me duck, it's Links Live's Natters time, where your stories come alive. From the fens to the coast. So grab a cuppa and relax with your go-to podcast for unique Lincolnshire stories.
Today we're nattering with Dan Hadfield. He's one of the UK's top, if not the top UK Gary Barlow tribute artist. Welcome, Dan, to the Links Live Natters podcast. Yay!
Welcome, Dan. That's very kind of you. Thanks very much for having me.
That's all right. We're really excited. We'll be chatting about his career, how he found himself stepping into the shoes of one of the country's most famous singers, and of course, his encounters with the man himself. So let's get started, Dan. So let's take you back a bit, because you've posted this week with your Take That people, haven't you, when you first started?
Oh God, yeah, of course. It was what's the date today? The 19th. It's it was 2 days ago. It was 13 years since my first outing as Gary.
Wow.
Tribute singing, yeah. And
13 years, Dan.
13 years. I know.
Wow.
I've done about just over 100 shows a year, so we're in advance of 1,300 shows since then. And
amazing.
And well, yeah. I mean, the person who's most amazed by that, Mandy, is me. But I'd never imagined getting to 10, let alone 1,000, and now I'm into that second 1,000, which is amazing. And I posted a photograph on Facebook of myself with the Take That tribute that I was with at the time, and whilst I'm pulling a calm face 5 minutes away from going on stage, only to, I don't know, about 300 people at the time, I think, and I was absolutely terrified.
Nervous energy, isn't it?
It is, and that nervous energy, and I still get it now, but the nervous energy immediately goes the moment I walk out. And it's the biggest relief all the time. Whenever I'm doing anything that's public, it's I'm like, before we go on, and then the moment we go on, it's gone. It's gone.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good though. Yeah. It's good though, because that means you want to do a good job.
It does. That's right. Exactly. And I can't stand that nervous energy. I hate it so much. I hate the adrenaline. And people thrive off the adrenaline sometimes, but I hate the adrenaline. What I like is for the adrenaline to go.
and exactly, Dan. I know how you feel.
Right. And the moment I go out, all that adrenaline and nervous energy turns into performance. And that's what I love doing most of all, really. I'm sure that everybody, who performs at a certain level, I guess, and above will feel that.
Let's take you back before you started this journey, before becoming Gary. I know you worked in education and performed in bands. What kind of music were you involved in back there? What got you into singing? What got you into music? This is pre-Gary.
Yes, well, there's a lot pre-Gary, really, but nothing you would say that is credible. I mean, the first time I ever sang.
Oh, Dan, don't put yourself down.
No, I'm not. These are not humble brags in any way. Honestly, I do try and keep it as honest and real as I can. First time I sang in public was on stage as a teenager in the play Grease. So I was taking the part of Danny. This is going back 35 years now, and I could sort of hold a note. I could hold a note. I wouldn't say I was a gorgeous singer. I was just I could sing in tune and I could hold a note. And I remember, doing the ensemble songs where several people would be singing, and then I had to do the song Sandy, which was solo, on my own. And
wow, that's quite a tough song, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. But I kind of got it, and then after that. That was around the time when karaoke started to filter into culture where, there'd be karaoke nights and you'd go out and you'd try your hand at Mustang Sally.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Mustang Sally.
All those
Yeah.
awful songs that everybody has a go at, and kind of,
Some people still do, Dan.
oh, it's just whenever I see that song come up, there's no irony attached to it, but I found that I could sing okay, sort of soul music. I was decent, but everybody has a go at soul music, and that kind of starts you off, and then gradually, as I got into my 20s, I was starting to sing more poppy songs. But I'm a bit old-fashioned. I'm a bit rubbish, and so I was singing middle of the road stuff, like Neil Diamond, Sinatra, Elvis, and all that stuff that just, everybody kind of does in cabaret. And then really, I went to university quite late. I went in my mid to late 20s. Went with formed a couple of duets there where I sang sort of folky music, Everly Brothers, Simon and Garfunkel. So I was exploring different aspects of my voice, and slowly I was finding out what my voice was. And then briefly was in a band around sort of Lincolnshire, which covered kind of Americana, and Neil Young and Pearl Jam and things like that. And then just at the end of that, the Gary thing started, and really I was forced in a way to kind of go, oh, can you sing sort of contemporary pop music, which I'd not really done. And
do you think that was your turning point that sort of led you down this path?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. It's still not the best. It's not the best type of music. Not the best genre for my voice. No way. I think the best genre for my voice is probably swing. I enjoy. So I get swing. I get jazz and swing. So when my timing is there. With pop, I'm constantly having to work at it. But I've been doing the Gary and take that stuff for so long.
You are very good at it. So please take the humble brag.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you think so, and I have to accept that it's not what I think; it's what you think. And that's the thing. I don't come home from a show and go, oh, I nailed all that. I come home and go, God, I murdered that, or that was all right.
We do, don't we? As human beings, we all do it, because I'll come off a recording and go, well, I could have done that better.
Yeah, absolutely. You're in massive danger of really tripping over if you think you're something in anything, So you're only as good as your last show, I think.
Did you? Yeah. Did you ever imagine this would become such a big part of your life?
No, I thought I was setting myself up for a huge fall. I really did.
Really?
Yeah, I really did. And some of the comments that I received from, not necessarily directly, but some of the comments I read about myself from people at the time who I kind of thought were friends, really, sort of
really?
made me think that, they're just waiting for me to fall, and they were all kind of indicating that, I must be out of my mind to go and do this.
Well, not very good friends.
No, not really. They weren't, actually. No, they weren't. And that's right. And I just that kind of drove me on, actually. Drove me on. They were waiting for me to kind of, about turn and go and ask for my old job back, and over my dead body.
Yeah.
It
makes you more determined.
It did, Mandy. It did. It made me go and just really knuckle down and go for it and learn the trade, because I mean, you see a lot of people going on to the X Factor or BGT who have never been around the clubs, never really worked at it, never haven't learned how to deal with the problems you might have on stage. And then when a problem comes up, they don't know what to do. They fall, and what I wanted to do was work through all of the difficulty, and I did.
I think if you survive the clubs, you do. You're doing pretty well.
Oh yeah, I mean, God, in 30.
I bet you've played a few, Dan.
I have, but I've played a few.
But we won't name drop.
The Phoenix Nights clubs are the best ones.
Do they still exist?
Yeah, they do. Although they're
Those are
definitely guys.
working. Are we talking working men's clubs?
We are.
Oh yeah, there, yeah.
But
But we won't name drop which ones.
no. There is a huge.
Some.
That's right. There is a huge spectrum of working men's clubs. Some you go in and from the outside you look like you're about to go into a bomb shelter, and they actually, but they run it really. They run it really well.
Yeah.
Good stage, good PA. Great people, well supported. Others you would go in and you've got Doris in there with one tooth. and
Sounds like an episode of Phoenix Nights.
It is Phoenix Nights, yeah.
Phoenix Nights.
Yeah, and
yeah.
But that's what it's like. So, but you do have to treat the good and the bad with the same light hand, and I think that helps you get through it really.
Yeah, I know Dan's going to hate this question we were about to ask him, and I've had conversations with Dan beforehand, okay, Dan, when did the resemblance start happening? When did people start telling you? He said to me when I first approached him, don't ask me the obvious question.
That's right. The obvious one. So when did you first realise you looked like oh God? Well,
why did this happen? Why were people telling you?
Yeah, okay. So first off, I don't want to come across in any way, shape or form as a delusional. Okay. That's the first thing.
That's the disclaimer, Gun.
That is my disclaimer because this happens. Firstly, I bear a resemblance to Gary. That's it. I bear a resemblance. I am not a twin. I am not identical. There are some things there are some profiles of some angles. There's certain things which absolutely spot on. But then the moment I move out of that, I become not Gary. So on stage when you are when you're in a three-piece suit and when you've got Take That going on and all that, I think there is a sleight of hand thing where people suspend their disbelief and they accept that you are a lookalike tribute.
Yeah, you got all the senses going, haven't you?
Yeah, they have. That's right. And so I might look that way and look a bit like Gary Barlow. I might look that way not. So there's and so in movement, people seem to think, oh God, he looks a bit like So what really happened was it was 2011. And Gary had been reformed with Take That for a while. But, kind of just in the background. Then he came onto the X Factor. And everybody just started to say, God, Dan, you have you seen Gary recently? You two look really similar. And I'd had it a bit back in the 90s.
Were you rolling your eyes a bit, Dan? Sort of like, you what?
Yeah, I was. Because I'd not thought about Gary Barlow for, 10, 15, whatever years, since
when he first sort of left Take That and he brought a few, shall we say, interesting songs out.
That's right. Exactly right. And, so I saw, and it coincided with the fact that I'd grown a bit of a beard. And as a bit of a kind of a joke, I went and had my hair cut in that kind of parting.
So was that a case of walking into the barber's? I'd like a Gary Barlow.
Oh, it was embarrassing. Fortunately, I knew my barber so well. Make me look like Johnny Depp. Make me look like George Clooney. It's like ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But they did the hair, and then on an almost daily basis, I had people by the handful really saying, God, you really look like Gary Barlow. And it started to make me feel a bit hideous, actually. It started to make me feel a bit, it's because...
Bit cringe.
Yeah, it was. I was a bit like, oh, God, what have I done? And then I sent off a picture to an agency, a lookalike agency. Didn't tell anybody I was doing this. And the lookalike agency came back to me and said, you're going to get loads of work if you want. And I hadn't got a clue what he was on about. I didn't. What sort of work? What do you mean? I only sort of done it as a joke. And he said, "Oh, could be opening shopping centres, fashion shoots, this, that, that." What? Gary does that? And I went, no, he doesn't. Why would he do that? He's a big, and it sort of it occurred to me that that there was this sort of niche thing of the lookalike industry, and then the X Factor rang me up. And this is before anybody knew I was doing this. They rang me up and said, "Oh, do you want to come on the telly on Sunday night with Gary to do a sketch as his lookalike?" And I knew it wasn't a wind up because nobody else knew had sent the photograph.
Yeah.
And so my biggest turning point was going, "Okay, I'll come," and that was it. I went down.
How does it feel when you get a telephone call from is it from the X Factor producers and things like that, and you're like, "Is this a wind up?"
Yeah, well, this is it. I knew it wasn't, and so obviously I took it seriously straight away, and I just kind of thought, "Oh my God, what am I doing?" And I went, and we got a train down there. I ended up, being looked after with the other three lookalikes. Then I came out of those doors to 6 million people who were watching, I think, and
wow,
and it was a moment. And I don't know, like I was saying at the beginning, the adrenaline was big, and then as soon as the doors opened, it was fine. It's fine. And as it happens, the little sketch went really well. I had a little bit of a crack with Gary, and it kind of just started the ball rolling a bit. And I came home, went to university where I worked the next day, and obviously everybody had seen it, and it was awash with, "Oh my God." And that was that.
And was it a case of like, I just want to forget it? It's happened.
No. I was at the point there where I thought, "Oh, hang on. Let's just roll with this. I've said yes to the hardest thing. Let's just see what happens now." And then a guy I know, a friend of mine, Danny, who I didn't know at the time, he was an agent in Manchester, and he got in touch and said, "Oh, would you like to come up to Manchester and audition for our Take That tribute band? We'd like a new Gary role." And he said, "If you can sing, which we think you do sing, and you look like that, that's going to be perfect." And I went up to Manchester, obviously sang, and that was it. And it kind of, the train start to roll. The train.
Hey, I'm going to ask Dan a really cringy question that he doesn't know that's coming.
Go on.
Have you ever been stopped in like a petrol station, or you're going somewhere and stuff like that, and you could see people looking out the car going, "Is it? Isn't it? Is it? Isn't it?"
Del,
Yes.
100,000 times.
Really? Oh wow.
It's daily. It's every day. And I sound like I'm being a bit of a, I don't know, Burke saying that, I guess. I'm not. It's every day I get something, and
Fabulous.
obviously, it's usually in a place where I've not been, because people in Lincoln know me, and and it's you go in your circles, like I always go to Tesco's or that, and people know you in there, and they know you in there and stuff, and they're always interested in what you're doing. But it's when I go to a new place, I happen to be, suited and booted in the right way, or my hair happens to be just right that day or whatever, not like that, or so it's and people, people will either come up and say something or be derogatory, or they will be nice or say, "Oh, can I have a picture with you to send to my sister?" And I'm like, "I know it's for you, mate. Stop." I
know it's going on your wall.
Yeah, that's it. I know it's your screensaver. Yeah, it's fine.
Do you think your voice is naturally similar, or do you work on matching tone and style?
I think I have a similar range. I think I have a slightly deeper voice than him. I think Gary's a really good singer. I think that's, I think he's a really, really good singer. I think he has a tendency, especially in the last few years, to sing in a lot higher range. He's singing up there a lot, and his falsetto is really in evidence. I don't know whether that is his best, actually. I think the recent stuff has been, I don't know, not my favourites really. And I like his pop voice. I think his Rule the World, his Greatest Days, is, I think that's his sweet spot.
Yeah, I like
And
those.
I think recently, some of the more recent recordings he's done, whilst good, they're just such a departure from what Take That fans are used to. But that's his prerogative. If he wants to, he wants to do that, he does that.
Oh, yeah.
We all want to do some things that are different sometimes, But I try, and when I sing, I don't, I definitely don't try to over sound like him. And and I think I compensate the other way. My wife often says to me, you ought to try harder to sound like him when you sing, because I know what she means, though, because I've tended to start to sing more as I sing, with certain inflections on words that Gary might use. But but when I hear all this is my criticism about tributes, and with the Gary Barlow tributes, I certainly think that a lot of Gary Barlow tributes out there try and sound like him, and they end up sounding like a stereotype of Gary, a caricature of him, and and all this, and I'm like, he doesn't sound like that. He doesn't sound like let the songs do the heart, And so sometimes I think some of my songs sound more like him than others, really. So I wouldn't be surprised if some people left my shows. And I'm not saying a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if some people left my shows and go, "He doesn't sound like Gary." I wouldn't be surprised at that.
But the name's in the title, Dan. It says Dan Hadfield.
Well, that's right. That's exactly right. And I'm doing the songs of Gary Barlow, and I just happen to look a bit like him and happen to sound a bit like him. I never pretend to be him, and that's the thing.
Do you think you have a lasting memory of meeting him, on the X Factor and stuff like that? What's something that stayed with you from, that first meeting?
Well, the first meeting was, over in a flash, really, a few minutes, and so I didn't really think too much about that. I was the only one that he had a photograph with at the end of the night, and that photograph was like a launch pad to something else. And obviously, I sang with him in 2015, and I've done a few other lookalike jobs on TV. I was on Miranda.
We had this conversation, didn't we?
I didn't realise.
You don't need to get carried away. I was body doubling on the live show, and I was.
We're super fans, Dan. We're allowed to.
And I was like a profile double with a good ear and side shot on the video, because he was filming in the afternoon and couldn't make the live show in the evening. So I in the evening for the live show, I got his suit on, which is considerably smaller than I am, and I was on the live stage show. So on the main screen at the BBC, on the main screen, you've got the audience watching the live show, and then I'd Gary on the big screen, and I would be on the stage. So people would be watching, going, "Hang on, so there's Gary there, and there's somebody who really looks like Gary on the piano there. What's going on?" So that was the kind of trick there. But something he said to me, which really stuck. One day I sort of said, I think it was a message I sent to him, and I said, I try and do you proud on stage. I try.
That's a lovely thing to say.
And I never want to never take the rise. I never, I always try and be as authentic and genuine to what you would try and do, because I think that's important, because what he does gives me the luxury of my life, and I have to do that carefully. And he turned around and he said, "Oh, mate," he said, "don't look to me as a role model, mate. I'm just making it up as I go along."
Really?
Yeah. And that was great.
Yeah.
Like, I needed to hear that. A bloke who's won, all these Ivor Novellos, been around the world, biggest boy band in the world, blah, blah. And he goes, and I don't think there was any disingenuous.
No.
I think it was, I'm just making it all. I just, and you sort of, that, of course they are.
Yeah.
Everybody's making it up as they go along.
But you think they've got it together, don't you? But they're just...
No, nobody does.
No.
You know,
No.
and the higher you rise, the more you're flapping underneath the water, because
it's like a duck.
Duck, you are. And,
yeah.
You know, and
that's an interesting analogy, that one, Mandy, a duck.
A duck is all nice on the and underneath going like that.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what we try and do. We are winging it.
Hey there, Lincolnshire business owners. Struggling to be found online? Still buried on page 3 of Google? Wondering if anyone's even looking? Well, stop stressing and join the Lincolnshire Business Directory. It's completely free to join, and you'll finally start getting noticed. Think of it like shouting from the hilltops, but digitally. Want to really make a splash? For just £99, you can upgrade to a premium listing and get in front of more eyes. You'll be the talk of the town. It's super easy. Pick a plan, create your listing, and boom, you're live. Customers will be finding you faster than you can say SEO. Head to www.lincolnshirebusinessdirectory.co.uk. Don't miss out. Your customers are waiting.
At the Thrive Tribe, we believe everyone deserves the chance to soar. Whether you're an individual seeking self-improvement or a business aiming for success, we've got you covered. Personalised coaching. Unlock your potential with our expert coaches. One-on-one guidance tailored to your unique goals. Learn flexibly online. Boost your skills from Microsoft Office mastery to work-based expertise. Lifelong learning? We've got the keys. So whether you're an aspiring professional, a business leader, or simply hungry for growth, join the Thrive Tribe today. Visit thethrivetribe.com and let's ignite your journey. Remember, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. The Thrive Tribe, where potential meets possibility.
What's been the most memorable gig you've ever done?
Most memorable gig.
The Working Men's Club, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, I thought about this recently, actually. It would be a really, I mean, the obvious one is to say that the wedding performance with Gary. However, that isn't the most memorable one for me. The most memorable one, I think, was just a music club in Ibiza. I used to go to 6 times a year and do my Gary show there. And the first time I got a standing ovation was in there. Now, don't get me wrong, standing ovations are not things that happen to me regularly. I think I've probably had a handful over the years, I'm not the sort of act who gets a standing ovation. It's not like that, Do
you know what? You've put it out there now, so people are going to think, who listen to this and think, yeah, I've got to give him a standing ovation now. You put it out there now.
No, because it's a song might inspire it, but my music just goes. It goes from one song to the song. So it's not like, and now we're going to this very special song, blah, 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 and everybody stands. It's not like that. But this particular night had been building, and we've been doing the show was going well. And I think we got to about 3 songs from the end, and I sang the song Rule the World. And I remember everybody getting up on the feet to applaud. And I don't think it was because of the vocal performance, which was decent, but I don't think it was that. I think it was overall, the show had just been going so well. Jokes had been working, songs had been working, the interaction, and there was that feeling of sort of collective happiness, and then people started to clap, and so that's
lovely.
Yeah, I remember thinking to myself, "Oh my God, people on the feet," and there was a bit of a shut up.
Oh, that's nice. That's lovely.
Yeah. So that's your best ever reaction from an audience in a way, isn't it?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. But I like to talk a lot between songs. I love to tell jokes. I love to ad lib. I really love to do crowd work. It's my favourite thing. I've never planned what I'm going to say. I always just roll with what's in front of me.
Do you go into the venue and think, oh, this is a really good audience, I can have some fun with you with them?
Yeah, and definitely, but also I'm not put off when I walk into a place and go, my God, these look half dead, because I actually think, and I'm not sure which half. I think to myself, I'm going to have more fun with you because you're like the brick wall I can
Yeah.
mud at.
It's a challenge.
Until something sticks. And
Yeah.
Jade, my wife, often says to me, I'm glad I don't come to your shows anymore because I couldn't because one day you'll get clocked by somebody and I don't want to be there when it happens. And I always say no, because I think when you go to a show, especially when you would say come to a Gary Barlow tribute night, you don't expect that humorous interaction. You just expect the Gary Barlow tribute to come on, raise a few eyebrows, pull a few idiotic faces, and sing "Rule the World." But I really enjoy the comedy. I really enjoy that, and that's as big a part of my show in my head as the singing.
Dare I mention when you go to Manchester as Gary Barlow, what's that vibe like? How does that feel? Sort of like you're going into his territory.
His own backyard.
It's right. Although it's weirdly, it's more in Liverpool that you get that.
Really? In what way?
Well, because whilst Take That come out of Manchester, Gary's kind of in Frodsham, which is over from St.
Oh, yes, I know Frodsham.
He's more Liverpool. He's more Cheshire, Liverpool, and
Cheshire, very much Cheshire.
That's right. And he's all this. It's a bit fake that he's a mank and all. He's not. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not. I mean, the band obviously come out of there, and Manchester is the home city and all that. But I think Gary's probably more affiliated. You see him at the Liverpool football matches.
He's a Liverpool fan, isn't he?
He is, for his sins.
So is Mandy. Mandy.
Yeah, big Liverpool fan.
Been a tough week for you.
Oh yeah, awful.
Tough week for you.
Yeah.
So it's I mean the women are a lot crazier in Manchester and Liverpool. I'm always glad to get home. That's for sure.
He loves you really. If anybody's listening from Liverpool and Manchester, he does love you really.
I love most of them. That's right. Yeah.
I'm just justifying it for him, Dan.
I'll tell them it's fine. It's fine.
Have you ever collaborated with any other tribute artist? Maybe the Take That experience.
I think we mentioned it at the start, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right. No, I mean, Take That experience. About 10 years ago, asked me to go and be there, Gary, but I turned it down. I don't feel like I would benefit really financially or professionally from being in a Take That lineup. I know that sounds like a hard. I don't want to put front on it and go, well, this, that, and the other, but it just didn't make financial sense to me. They're a great band. They put up. There's a lot of really good Take That tribute bands out there, and they're well produced, fill in the theatres and all that. But it's not really for me. I'd rather do it on my own or with my own band. The Take That tribute bands, they want you to be that character.
Okay.
They want you to actually do all the little, expressions, everything. The cheese when he says absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And Dan said to me, we weren't going there.
I tell you what, if I did that, I could do it utterly spot on.
Go on then.
Nope.
We're challenging you to say it.
Maybe at the end, because honestly, if I wanted to do the Gary Barlow impression, I could do it, and you would go.
I've actually heard you talk before on video, and some of your words, when you're in character and stuff, you're sort of like you're Dan, but you've got the you're using his words, and you do actually sound like him sometimes.
And I'm dialing it down. I definitely let myself do something that I didn't want to do, and I'm only admitting to it myself recently.
Why is that?
Because I didn't, I'm me, aren't I? I'm not Gary Barlow. But I've spent so many years doing this. There is no doubt whatsoever I've started to let things for ease trip into my own personality. Maybe he would do little mannerisms, and I'd do them, and I go, oh God, you know, and you know, and I think, why have I done that? Why have I done that? And it's like, it must be like going and living abroad and slightly picking up the accent. I think that's the closest, you know, I can get to describe.
Yeah. You
But
say
don't
about.
forget,
It's auto, isn't it? It's like
it is.
automatic.
It is, but don't forget, I'm not a southerner who is, I'm a northern lad. You know what I mean? I'm a northern lad, and I do talk relatively slowly, and he's a northern lad who talks relatively slowly. So the starting point is not too similar.
Yeah.
And you know, I could easily slow it down and talk more like this. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to do that. You know. And
we'll get him.
I mean?
We'll get him when he's not expecting it.
But coming back to your question, I mainly work with different tribute artists, like, you know, Natalie, who does Adele, she's utterly brilliant. Naya King, who does Whitney, she's brilliant. Occasionally we've done shows where, you know, you just happen to be on the same bill and you end up singing together. But at the moment we've got a Robbie and Gary show going with my friend Scott Borley, who is stunning as Robbie.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of him.
Stunning. He's stunning. I mean, there's some good Robbies around, but Scott transcends that. And he's a southerner. And when he goes on
There's
stage,
nothing wrong with southerners.
and what I love about Scott is he goes on stage and he doesn't pretend to talk like Robbie. And it's just him, but he has his personality on stage, not backstage. He's a very quiet, humble guy, which is unlike a lot of the Robbie Williams tributes. And he is a very quiet, humble guy, and he's that spitting image of Robbie. Spitting image. If I'm walking around with Scott, nobody would look at me and think I look like Gary Barlow.
Wow. They just automatically go to Scott and
go, oh my god, look at him. He's Robbie Williams. And he just happens. And you know, if somebody was to say, oh, this is Robbie and Gary, people would look and go, but he looks like Robbie, but you only look a little bit like Gary, because he really does look like Robbie Williams. And that's
it's that old this facial expression is sort of
doppelganger.
It is a doppelganger.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
and he's exactly the same age as Rob as well, and he's got his own teeth.
See, the way you just said he's exactly the same as Rob. You've just done it, and I think you didn't realise the way you said Rob. You actually said it in like a Gary Barlow voice.
I guess so. I guess it's because I guess so.
You've just automatically done it, Dan. You've just automatically done it. You know, you've gone. That's an exciting sort of project that's in the pipeline.
Oh, we've been doing
it for a couple of years.
And our show. We've never ever done a show which we've not enjoyed, because we do about 12 shows a year. So both of us would do maybe 100 shows a year of our own. Of those, we probably do about 12 of them together. And we do a longer show. We don't rehearse it. We just go out and sing, and it's we choreograph as we go in. You know, so we have lots of fun.
Yeah, because Gary doesn't really like dancing, does he?
Yeah, he's not known for it.
He's always said he doesn't really like to do it, does he?
Well, that's also another similarity.
Or has he changed?
Oh no, he's useless. But the thing is, how on earth can he be useless? He can't be. He's good, but he's not.
Is he a multi-millionaire now?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But he
doesn't need to dance.
No, he doesn't. But his singing, his dancing was, you know, they always put him at the back in the 90s. But you've got to think that if you put Gary on his own and said you have to do this, you'd look and go, oh, he can dance. But you stand him next to Howard, Jason, and Mark, who can all dance.
Oh yes.
And suddenly you're like,
and Howard and Jason were like break dancers and things like that.
And Mark was versatile, and Robbie could do his all round job. But you know, Gary would be. Yeah, Gary's a singer. Gary was a singer, and he wasn't the dancer.
Didn't need to dance.
No, he didn't need to dance.
No, because I had visions of that song, you know, like Pray, when they're moving their hands up
I
and
love
down
that
like this. You know, but Gary was sort of almost towards the back, wasn't he, when he was doing all this?
I do that dance every show. I do.
Oh wow!
Do you? That's one of my favourite dances.
Okay.
Like that.
I do that Pray dance, and I do a little spiel with it to say that, you know, my dance, I'm such an accurate tribute that I will dance as badly as Gary. And so I put a little bit of carpet down just before, mentally, not actually physically. I like to say, when you see me flailing around in a minute, it's because I'm such an accurate portrayal of.
Would you ever consider branching out into original music or another side of entertainment?
Yes, Elton John.
Yeah, that's right. I think I'm a decent writer, but I struggle to write lyrics that aren't twee and something that would be written in the mid-70s that end up on your coffee table. I don't think I'm not in any way, shape, or form current. I think my writing would be old hat and old-fashioned, and I've yet to really stick my neck above the parapet and give that a go. I'm going to at some point, and it will either be well received or it'll be mediocre and forgotten about. But I will give it a go at some point, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, future plans you've said about going out with the Robbie tribute. Where else? Where can we see you? What's in where are you appearing?
Well, I'm everywhere, really. I'm well, on my best place to find where I am is on my website, which is still GaryBarlowLookalike.com. I can't bring myself to change it because that was the moniker that I started with, and it gets really good traffic. So GaryBarlowLookalike.com or Facebook, Mr. Dan Hadfield. I'm on there.
Mr. Dan Hadfield.
Mr. Dan I don't have any mention of, like, well, I do, but I don't go under the Gary Barlow tribute thing on there. But yeah, and my Facebook's the best place to find out what I'm doing.
And finally, before we go, dare we ask, what's your favourite songs to perform?
Oh, that's quite a simple one, actually. There are two, and they're joined together, and they open the show in the same way that Gary tends to open his show with these. Since I Saw You Last, which is an amazing song by.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah, and that blends into Greatest Day. And the reason I like singing those two songs are quite simple. Since I Saw You Last is a great song in itself, but if I'm singing to an audience that are generic Take That fans, they don't always know that song. Hardcore Gary fans know it. But when I'm singing that song, sometimes I see people's faces like that, and I think to myself, they're thinking, "Oh my God,
they're doing this, Dan."
They are. They're thinking to themselves, "What have I come to? Is he just going to sing Gary Barlow songs all night?" That
I don't know.
So I sing that song, and then it goes into Greatest Day, and I see them go from. I like that.
And it's like, ooh, yeah.
Do you wait for it? See how long it takes them.
I see the relief. And so I enjoy both of those. And, everybody's arms in the air, and it's all, it's...
Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Links Lives Natters podcast. Thanks so much for sharing your story, your experience, and of course giving us a little insight into the world of being Gary Barlow. Well, almost, because he is here as Dan Hadfield. And for those of you listening, if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. We'll be back soon with more brilliant guests, local stories, and plenty more natters. Until next time, take care.